welcome everyone, my name's Greg. Today I'm going to be running over the War Dog units. There's a lot to digest about the War Dogs units, and although at face value they seem pretty simple, there's some real intricacies that make them a very strong unit if played properly. When Total War Arena returned, I nearly played them exclusively, trying to specialise in the unit, but when the strike move nerf came in, I kind of dropped off them for a while and moved to spears, but recently I've returned because I think they're actually quite strong in the current game mode, and the ability to heal up actually makes them very, very strong. So hopefully I can run over the units and showcase why I think that is the case. So what I'm going to be doing is running through what the War Dogs are, their strengths and weaknesses, the recommended commanders, abilities, consumables, tactics, and then I'll run through a really quick game. So the War Dog units are exclusively available on the Barbarian faction, available from tier 4 onwards, with Second Strays, Wild Wolves, Hound Handlers, Brocklean Biters, Wolfwalkers, Warg Warriors, and the Fenrir's Followers. So first of all, how do they work? It's a combination of two separate units. One is the Handler and the Dog unit. Two separate entities bound by the Unleash and Leashing mechanism, as you'll see down the bottom here. And what they do is the Handlers are a very low armor infantry unit with a reasonable speed. They're a bit faster than quite a few infantry units, a bit slower than other barbarian infantry units, and they've got a few abilities which I'll touch on later on, which actually make the Handlers very useful in engagements on one or two of the commanders. So if you play them properly, then you can actually make what is a relatively weak infantry unit into a very powerful one. The Dogs are an aggressive unit which can be deployed to a location on the map within an area of range, like an AoE kind of thing, similar to range of archers. Once the Dogs are unleashed, they'll run to that location and they'll only deviate if they detect an enemy unit on the way, and then they'll latch on. Once latched on, they'll perform a charge into the unit, causing knockdown, and they'll begin attacking. They'll keep attacking and stay latched on until either they die, the enemy dies, or if another enemy unit comes into that engagement and the Dogs latch onto them and begin attacking them. So say for instance if they latch onto an archer and the enemy bring in infantry, they mix themselves in and then the archers drop off, they'll continue attacking the infantry. If the enemy unit dies, they'll continue running to their destination, only returning once you releash them or they're dead. If the Dogs die, you do need to go back and heal to get them back. You can't heal whilst the Dogs are still unleashed, so you do need to releash them to get them back. And that's basically a quick summary of how the War Dogs work. The strengths of the War Dogs, I feel right now they're actually strong against most units. They really excel against artillery, and they're not subject to stakes, so often the artillery put down stakes around them to prevent infantry from getting in. The Dogs just weasel their way through there and begin attacking, and they'll quickly just clear out any artillery that's hiding behind stakes. They're super strong against pikes. They are strong against spears, but if you come up against, say for instance, Leonidas spears with shield bash and thrust, then they are going to do quite a bit of damage to the Dogs. They're very good at cavalry and ranged units, but that does come with a small caveat, which I'll touch on in a second in the weaknesses section. They're pretty good against infantry, but chances are you're probably going to die a bit faster than what you'll kill the infantry, especially if they have multiple strike moves, because they're no longer immune to the strikes, so they will be able to be hit, and you don't have a massive amount of the Dogs compared to the infantry units themselves, so heavy infantry will probably win out that engagement. The weaknesses of them: they're weak against infantry with two strike moves, as I just said. So say for instance Guan Yu Glaives, they will do very well against the War Dogs, or Leonidas spears with shield bash and thrust. They are very vulnerable to ranged fire and cavalry charges, so if you're choosing to engage them, it's very much a risk and reward kind of situation. If they get vision on you before you've latched on and within your range to charge, then chances are, if the ranged player is smart, they're going to fire on the Dogs, and the Dogs will die extremely quickly. If the cavalry see you and they charge into the Dogs, the cavalry will win out that engagement, and the dogs will just die so quickly. So what will happen there is that you lose all of your offensive capabilities from the war dogs without doing any damage at all. So when you deploy them, you do need to be very tactical about how you deploy them, where you deploy them, and the path they're going to take in order to get to those units, or else if they get vision, they're going to wipe you out very quickly, and you just become 3 very weak infantry units out on the battlefield before you can get back and heal. If they get vision of your handlers too, they can fire on the handlers or charge into the handlers. Very similar situation. They're not going to last too long, so you do need to be very tactical about how you deploy them. But if deployed properly, you can do a lot of damage. On the Barbarian faction, we have 4 commanders you can pick from: Ambi Rex, Buddhica, Gentrix, and Arminius. So let's run through them now really quickly. 2 of them I'm going to skim over very fast because I don't think they're appropriate in the way that I play it. One of them is completely inappropriate. So Ambi Rex, I am not going to bother there. He's a ranged commander. He offers absolutely nothing to the War Dogs. The second commander, and this might throw a couple of people off, I don't like to play, is Arminius. I don't think his abilities really complement the dogs too much. He does offer momentum. That's probably the only one I think is useful on him for the war dogs. The reason for that is momentum is nice for speed and the other buffs you can see there, but his other 2 abilities don't offer enough. So you have here infiltration, which is nice, but in PvP you're not fooling anyone with your blue color, alright? Anyone who knows how to play and knows that there's an Arminius on the other team playing War Dogs, they would notice that, you know, there's a blue player coming at them from a weird angle in a non-defensive manner. So they're not going to be tricked by that. And the last one is Frenzy. I really actually don't like this, purely because it drops the defense down on a low armor infantry unit even lower. So if you're going to be using the infantry on Arminius in an engagement, you're just making him extremely weak in that engagement for a period of time, and I don't like that, purely because I like to use my handlers in engagements for flanking and routing enemy units, and I think the other commanders actually offer that a lot better. The 2 commander options I think for the War Dogs is either Gentrix or Buddhica. I'm going to touch on Buddhica now because I don't use her. I do use Gentrix, but I'll tell you why I don't use Buddhica. First of all, her abilities I don't think suit my playstyle. So the first ability is the Fury, which is a nice charge, but it's a bit confusing when it comes to charging with the handlers. And I'm not really playing in a way that I'm trying to charge enemy units with the War Dogs, so I don't really think that's super applicable to my playstyle. The second one is Vanguard. Yeah, I don't want to just slow down my units for a tiny bit more view range, charge impact, and impact damage. I can see how if you play a very defensive handler game, that could potentially be useful, purely because you might want to sit your units back and so sit your handlers back and let the dogs do all the work. I do see some players doing that. They sit their handlers in, say, a healing zone and deploy the dogs out, or they set them up on a watchtower so they get good vision, deploy the dogs out to do all the hard work, and the handlers just sit there. I think that's a waste of units myself, but some people do like to play them that way. The last ability on Buddhica is the only reason why I pick her is Rebellion. This is a very, very good ability, and it affects allied units too, so that makes it very strong, and that would be the only reason why I pick her. It does have a pretty reasonable cooldown time of 140 seconds, 30-second duration. 10-second wind-up is a bit confusing for some people. They don't understand how to use the wind-up before the engagement, because you can't actually use it once you actually engage them. But once you get a couple of levels up with Buddhica, the Rebellion becomes very strong as a buffer for your friendly units on your side, and would be potentially like a support agent out on the field. I personally don't like to play them like that, so I don't pick Buddhica. I haven't unlocked it yet. I could give her a go, but it doesn't really suit how I like to play them. So the last commander is Gentrix. He's definitely the one I pick, and I'll go through why now. So he has 3 abilities which actually round him out very well to make him a multi-purpose commander and the handler on the battlefield. So the first one you have is Iron Discipline. Iron Discipline is awesome. It's actually one of the strongest commander abilities you can possibly have, because you can send these units into somewhere. It's similar to like Oath, where you pop it and defend a location. You can hold it for a long period of time, and you can also attack a capture point, you can defend a capture point, and you won't be routing very quickly unless they do a really good job on you. And I think that actually makes him extremely strong. And it gives the handlers the ability to go into engagements and not die super quickly. So you can see there, missile block chance, melee defense. That is awesome buff on a low armor infantry unit. Yeah, positive ground modifier, whatever there. Anyway, so the next ability is Scorched Earth. Now, Scorched Earth is very good. I unfortunately forget that I have it a lot of the time, and I forget to use it. I'm starting to get better at it, normally because I'm deploying the dogs out and just trying to get my handlers in there to route really quickly. Unfortunately, it will hurt me if I go in there and hurts my dogs, but quite often it's an acceptable loss. Deploying the dogs in to have a Scorched Earth thing, because it will kill them off really quickly. And the last commander ability is Defiance, which is a very nice buff to the offensive capabilities of Gentrix and the units he takes. I haven't actually invested a lot of commander points into Defiance, just because it's not necessarily where I think I need to improve my units that I play for Gentrix. So that's basically the commanders. The abilities they have, obviously you got the Leash Unleash. I have Intimidate on the tier 6, 7, 8 onwards, and Slam. Now, this combination of commander abilities and unit abilities are actually extremely strong if used in the proper order and cycled through. So you're not just smashing T and doing Intimidate on everyone or slamming everyone, because that's not the best way to do it. The best way to do it, and I'll pop up some videos here to show you how to do it, and I might already have some up depending on how I edit this video, is you unleash the dogs into an engagement. You can either choose to send one of your handlers in and slam the first one, and then with the other two units you come in and throw in Scorched Earth. Scorched Earth into that engagement, and once you've slammed them, the slam will slow them down so they can't get out of that engagement, and at the same time, the instant you throw the Scorched Earth in, you wrap the other two units around the outside and begin getting the flanks. The flanking on War Dogs and all of the Barbarian infantry is extremely powerful. You have an 87 flank morale damage. Yep, there it is. And what that means is, as soon as you hit one of the flanks, their morale's going to start dropping. If you hit two, they're going to be routing very quickly. If you get a rear flank on them, we're talking about 2 seconds and they're going to be routing, unless they've got God of War or Hold the Line or another morale buffing ability on, you're going to be routing units very quickly. And what I find is, if you're coming 3-on-3, what's best to do is to obviously unleash the War Dogs into the front, throw in the Scorched Earth, wrap two of your units around to the back, send one to the front, so you got the front, one side flank, and try and get the rear flank, route the first unit, keep attacking that first unit with the one that has the side flank, and then the unit you sent frontally, target the second enemy unit, and the unit you took the rear flank with, wrap him around to get the rear flank of the second unit, and just cycle through them. And what you want to do also is you want to cycle through both Slam and Intimidate. So say for instance you click onto Unit 1, Intimidate, Slam. Okay, Intimidate's going to drop the morale quickly. Hopefully you've got a flank on at the same time and you've got the Scorched Earth in there burning them. Slamming is going to hold them in there. Hopefully you're going to be route them quickly. And then click onto the next unit, Intimidate, Slam, keep them in those flames, and just cycle through them, and you can churn through enemy units extremely quickly. And that's how I actually play the War Dogs. And it's very simple. Just deploy, Scorched Earth, flank, route, move to the next one, over and over again. Make sure you pop Iron Discipline before you go into the engagement, so you're not going to be routing, or you can hold on to it just in case they do start to get the flanks. But once I'm actually in the engagement, I'm so focused on trying to get those flanks that sometimes I forget to pop Iron Discipline, so I just do it at the start quite often. And then you obviously use Defiance once you're in the melee engagement. So that's that's basically my tactic with the War Dogs. You can sit them back and just deploy them into strategic locations and let them latch on and do all the hard work, but that's not how I like to roll. The consumable side of things, I never take these once off use. They're a waste of time. You've got 3 solid options here. You got Feast. I personally don't pick that, just because I like to play pretty aggressively with it. It does have +9 melee weapon damage and +3 melee weapon penetration, but if I was to not pick Spar, which charge impact, charge deflect, which for me is a big one because I always get recharged by cavalry, and melee attack. So I go with Spar over Feast, just personal preference. And Swear Oaths gives us that speed improvement, which is pretty good on the War Dogs. So that's basically the War Dog unit. The abilities on Versus Gentrix, which is the commander I would definitely recommend with them if you have it unlocked. If you don't, get it unlocked. He is, in my opinion, the best one. It is a commander that doesn't offer anything for your friendly units in terms of buffs, but he is a very, very strong commander out there. And even if the dogs die, you can just use the infantry to flank enemy units. You can support, say for instance, heavy infantry or spears, and you can stay in the game, contributing to your team in more than one aspect. I find that he's actually a 3-pronged attack. You've got the War Dogs, you've got the Scorched Earth, and you have the ability to flank and rout enemy units with those handlers. So it really makes you a very aggressive unit to use. If used properly, you can play it defensively, but he is very, very good on the offense. Anyway, that's the run through. Let's play a game and let's see how we go. The audio cut off in my video, so what I'm going to do is just play some of the in-game music whilst you watch the battle, and hopefully it'll allow you to get an idea of what it feels like to be in battle. Unfortunately, my full commentary of it was lost, so here's the video of it, and hopefully the battle is interesting. Let me know what you think about the video, give it a like, give it a comment, and hopefully I'll see you out there playing the War Dog units sometime soon. Cheers!